And yeah, absolutely delighted to now begin the competition element of today's proceedings. The competition this year will be a little bit more focused than it's been in previous years, where it's been more of an open call. Essentially, we'll be exploring and looking for innovations that are keeping the UK safe, either in the context of national security or in supporting building resilience throughout the pandemic. So I'll talk about the process today in a minute. Having seen the previous two winners of this competition, Wristledger and Shorevine, continue to grow and strengthen over the last year, we're really excited to see the breadth and potential of the companies pitching this morning and this afternoon. We've got 10 finalists who've already gone through an initial application process. So the judges this morning have had additional information in advance. So they've seen a little bit more about the innovations themselves and the companies that they come from. The format this morning is incredibly simple. So each pitch will last for 3 minutes. I'll time that and I'll make sure that people are kept to time. Any running over will take out of the 2 minutes that we've got for Q&A. So there should be a time for 2 or 3 questions after each pitch. If anyone's got any specific questions for any of the pitching companies, please do use the chat and the Q&A function to put those in, and all panelists and pitchers will have access to the chat to respond to those throughout. And we'll hear from 5 pitching companies this morning and revisit 5 this afternoon. So before we kick off, I'd just like to invite all 4 of the judges to turn the cameras on. And I'm going to introduce them all individually. So while they're doing that, I'll pick on the person that appears first. So Andy Williams, CEO of Global Transatlantic, and Andy also helped us in the application process. So the finalists that you see today have been whittled down from a larger group who applied. And Andy, if you could just introduce yourself and also 1 or 2 things that you're looking for in each of the pitches this morning.
Yeah, thanks, Dan. Yeah, so it's been my pleasure to be on the judging panel now for all 3 of the events so far. I was helping to select the very first winner, which I believe, if I remember rightly, was Wristledger. And last year, obviously, was Shorevine. So I'm really looking, I mean, it's been a fantastic group of applications and very difficult to shortlist down to 10. I'm really looking for those companies that are doing something very transformationally different in their fields. There's a lot of great companies out there, but we know that the challenges we're facing are very complex and very concerning. So I'm looking for people who are working in a field where they are actually transforming the way that field operates.
Thanks, Andy. And I'll go to the other returning judge from last year next. So Andrew Elliott, Deputy Director for Cybersecurity at DCMS. Same question again.
Hi, Dan. Thank you very much. Yes, I'm Andrew from DCMS, and thank you very much for inviting me back. I must have done a passable job last year, so that's very kind of you. I think the focus is very much looking on those areas that you've highlighted, Dan. Are they actually going to be having a significant and transformational impact in protecting our national security? And do they demonstrate, or in the alternative, do they demonstrate some kind of impact on the resilience of the economy following COVID? And yes, I think like Andy, I'm looking for something which is new and is going to have a significant impact. It's great. Thank you.
Thanks, Andrew. And new judge this year, so Nicola Whiting, co-owner at Titania.
So for me, after building one of the more successful SMEs in the UK in terms of export, I think what I'm looking for is a sound business base, maybe some diversity in there because statistically diverse companies are more successful, and a real track record that this is a product that's ready to place in the market.
Thanks, Nicola. And last but not least, Jerry back over to you. I know you've already spoken to us this morning, but what are you looking for this morning and this afternoon?
I think one of the interesting things for me is not just the impact, but the diversity of the impact. So the pitches we're getting today, where can they be applied across the marketplace, not just in terms of government or industry, but in terms of the citizen, education, et cetera, et cetera. And it would be good for the pitches to just draw that type of thing out about the diversity of the impact that they might be able to create from their products and services.
Thanks, Jerry. So I think what we'll do is get straight into it. So the person who's up first is Jonathan Slater from Caps Lock. Jonathan, do you want to come on camera? Brilliant.
Good morning.
I might even give you an extra 10, 15 seconds, seeing as you're first up.
It's very kind of you. Ready when you are.
Yeah, take it away.
All right. Good morning, everybody. Lovely to be in front of such good company. I'm one of the co-founders at Caps Lock, Jonathan Slater. And the question on all of our lips is, how do we keep the UK safe? For us, it always comes back to people. Cybersecurity talent is the underpinning catalyst for innovation. Technology, policy, good culture, they're all created by people. The most advanced technological solutions implemented, configured, and maintained by people. So for us, what we do, we're in the business of unlocking potential. So Caps Lock, we reskill and train adults to become cybersecurity professionals at no upfront costs in exchange for a percentage of their future income. We take the risk as an education organisation, so our priority is learner success. Our intensive retraining programme is delivered entirely online and costs £0 until a learner lands a job paying over £27,000. Then they pay Caps Lock 15% of their future income for 3 years, capped at £18,000. Why are we doing this? Well, we're all aware of the UK cybersecurity skills gap. The industry needs 17,000 new cybersecurity talented people every year, yet universities are only producing 3,000 to 4,000 graduates every year. Alongside this, 90% of the UK workforce, they need to reskill by 2030 to avoid career redundancy. So what we've done is redesign higher education from an inclusive admissions process to remove barriers to entry to enable anybody with the potential to enroll, regardless of their background. And then designing our career-changing education in collaboration with employers, with industry professionals, and academia. We use cutting-edge methodologies in our education where we've built a curriculum around solving real-world cybersecurity problems in small teams. So what we have is an intensive cybersecurity bootcamp, which lasts 4 months full-time or 6 months part-time, live instructor-led classes delivered on our digital campus entirely online, and one-to-one careers help and one-to-one professional coaching alongside the education. And importantly, again, no upfront costs to reduce those barriers. Right now, we've got 81 learners enrolled on our pilot cohorts. We're on track to produce the output of 6 universities combined in our first year in 2021. 32% women and 35% BAME enrolled. 20% of our learners are hired before they've even graduated, proving that the most important attribute in cyber right now is a willingness to learn. Our employer partners include NCC Group, Dyson, Allianz, the MOD, Hargreaves Lansdown, and the NHS. In terms of outcomes and the lives we've changed, we've had Dale, who was previously an army dog handler. He's now reskilled and he's a cyber training officer with Allianz. We've got Sean, who was a redundant Debenhams store manager, who's now an insider threat analyst at Dyson. And we've got Mikey as well, who's previously a professional dancer, retrained with us, and is now a SOC analyst. And he is our real life Fatima. That's everything from me. I would love to answer some questions. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Jonathan. 10 seconds under, so appreciate that. Which of the judges would like to go first?
Hey,
Andy,
Jonathan. Yeah, hey, Jonathan. Great to see you. I think we first encountered each other on the Cyber 101 bootcamp a while ago, and it's fantastic to see how far you guys have come as Caps Lock. Obviously, you are addressing one of the biggest issues that we all face, which is the cyber skills gap. It's a massive problem for us, not just here in the UK, but around the world. You mentioned that you put 86 learners through your course at the moment. In order to make a big impact, what are your plans for scaling up? And do you have in mind figures for how many learners you will get through the course in year 1, year 2, year 3? It'd be interesting to get a feel for that.
Yeah, indeed. So year one, we're on track to do about 186 is what's in the plan. Year two, 500, and then year three, 1,000. That's just the UK market in terms of where we want to go. Because we deliver the education entirely online, it's extremely scalable. But what we want to do is make sure that the learner outcomes and the learner experience is absolutely world class in terms of their education. So we're mindful of scaling too much whilst keeping a real strong quality, both for the learner, but also for the employers, in terms of the graduates coming out and the employers in terms of what they see in terms of the talent.
Great.
Nicola?
I'm very interested, being neurodivergent, in the varieties of training. So some people are great at videos. I'm not great at oral learning. Do you also have like transcripts that come up? Do you serve people in a variety of ways?
Yeah, great question. So the methodology is, like I said, pretty leading edge in terms of how we do it. You use something called team-based learning and problem-based learning. So a class might look like sort of before the class, you do some pre-work, which might be written, it might be a video, etc., or a podcast. And when you get into class, you'll do an individual test followed by a team-based test. So you do the same test, but part of a team, and that really encourages deep discussion in terms of knowledge retention. That's great. And then we go into an application exercise where you take what you've learned before the class and then apply it to a real life scenario. So actually, in terms of the learning path, it's quite diverse and covers different angles.
Clear then. Is the same information served in different ways so people can access it? Or is it just for...
Yeah, because on the learner support side, any sort of people with learning difficulties or those who might learn in different ways, there is one-to-one support available for that, and we do accommodate it right now.
Perfect, thank you.
Andrew?
Thanks. No, this sounds great. I'd just like to ask a bit more about the progress in achieving jobs so far. So I think you said you started the first cohort in February. If that's a 4-month training program, presumably that cohort is coming towards an end. What's your sort of target? You said 20% so far have found jobs. How many do you think are going to actually enter the labour market, say within a few months of completion?
Yeah, we always forecast in terms of the outcomes that they would be hired after graduation. We didn't foresee 20% before graduation, which is great. So we're ahead of assumptions in that regard. We're aiming for 80% employed. So others might go into further education, they might go traveling, etc. So 80% is realistic in that regard. So yeah, they graduate in July and August. So that's the target for us.
Thanks, Jonathan. I think that's it in terms of questions. There is one in the chat, so we'd appreciate if you could answer that one in the chat box as well. Also, for all the pitching companies this morning, the websites will go into the chat function as they speak, so attendees can see more about the company and what they're doing. So thanks again, Jonathan, for kicking us off.
No,
and next up, we've got David Notley from Enclave Networks. So David, over to you.
Good morning, everybody. I'm David Notley, CEO and co-founder of Enclave Networks. Great to be speaking with you all this morning. Firstly, to orientate everybody around Enclave, we're a zero trust networking business. We've raised funding, we're in revenue, we have global patents on our core tech. So what problems do we solve for our customers and how do we keep the country safe? So today there's a fundamental issue with much of the private network infrastructure that organizations rely on every day. And the problem is it's actually not that private. So for example, I went onto Shodan this morning, which is the search engine for internet devices, and I found more than 3.5 million VPN devices that were publicly visible, waiting for anyone, anywhere to connect to them. And this is because at the moment, private systems from VPNs to IoT devices to database servers rely on a connect, then authenticate architecture. Anyone can discover them and have a go. With Enclave's zero trust approach, we flip that architecture on its head. So authentication always comes before connection. So what that actually means is that Enclave creates private systems which are completely invisible to the public internet, unless and until defined trust standards have first been met. But there's more to Enclave than that. So what we do is we create invisible overlay networks. And this means that an Enclave network can be established without making any changes to your underlying network infrastructure. So at the moment, when organizations want private connectivity, they have to think about all the moving parts in their network that have to be changed first. So firewalls, VPNs, access control lists, secret keys, switches, routers, NAT, IP addresses, etc., etc. But with Enclave, organizations can get end-to-end encrypted, peer-to-peer, invisible connections without making any changes to their underlying network. And that saves our customers huge amounts of time and money. It makes them more agile. But actually, it also reduces the risks that come from making mistakes. And we see the results of those mistakes almost every day. And the basic reality is that complexity is the enemy of security. So who are the early adopters for this emerging deep tech? Innovation teams. They lead change, and they're responsible for continuous improvement in their organizations. They often work collaboratively in a DevOps style environment, and they want their innovation to be secure, but they also need agility, and Enclave delivers that. And what we've learned from our customers, large and small, is that we can use innovation teams as a landing pad and grow from there. So where are we going from here as a company? Next 2 quarters, we're totally focused on building our user and customer base and developing product features and benefits. Q4 this year, we plan to raise another round to scale the business model. Medium term, we can see a Series A round, ultimately leading to our mission to be a globally significant zero trust networking business. Many thanks for your time.
Thanks, David. Jerry, shall I come to you first on this one?
Yeah, great. Thanks very much, Dan. David, I'm really interested in the alternative way of doing things. So as you say, traditionally, it is connect and then authenticate, and there's a set of risks associated with that. There presumably is a set of risks associated with doing it the other way around. Do you want to just talk us through those briefly and how you're mitigating against those risks?
So yeah, I mean, with almost any technology, there is going to be some trade-offs. So the trade-offs with Enclave is that you have to install our agent on every device that's going to be in the Enclave network. But actually, once you've done that and you've connected peer-to-peer via, so we provide a SaaS service which gives identity to the individual systems and creates the connectivity pathways. But after that, the connection between the collaborating parties is end-to-end encrypted peer-to-peer. So we're not actually in the middle at all. So in terms of trade-offs, I actually think that is fundamentally a more secure security posture than allowing anybody to find out where your private systems are and try to connect to them. So I'm not saying there aren't any trade-offs with this zero trust approach, but I think fundamentally the architecture brings an inherent security which is sadly lacking in a lot of private systems at the moment.
Thanks, David.
Thank you.
Who wants to go next?
Hi, I'll go next if that's okay, Dan.
Yeah.
Hi, David. Great
Hi.
to hear your pitch, and obviously very timely in terms of the world moving to remote working and the need to secure remote workers. However, you pointed out that VPNs have some inherent security challenges. But today, I would guess your average company leader looking to secure its remote workforce would immediately think about adopting traditional VPN. So if I was in that position today, right now, what kind of one killer reason would you have to help persuade me not to adopt a traditional VPN and adopt your capability?
So it's a really good question. So one of the things I want to really emphasize with the Enclave solution, which is connected to your question, is that at the moment, the industry kind of has 2 silos. There's the human to machine connectivity, which is VPN based. But there's also the data center, the service mesh, machine to machine connectivity, and they're completely different markets with completely different technology solutions at the moment. One of the really interesting things about Enclave is that it can serve both of those. So to answer your question specifically, what I would say to anybody that is thinking of using VPN, it's a difficult challenge for us because Enclave is a virtual private network. That's what it is, but it does not rely on VPN servers. And actually the problem with VPNs at the moment is VPN servers, because they sit on the internet 24/7 waiting for anyone anywhere to connect to them. So what I would say in answer to that question is we'll create a VPN without a VPN server.
Okay, great.
Any burning questions from Nicola or Andrew on that one? No? Great. Thanks a lot, David. And
Thank
next
you.
up, we've got Tim Ward from Think Cyber. Over to you, Tim.
Okay, 90% of cyber attacks start with a human user. Poor passwords, clicking phishing links, lost USBs. Technical controls can never be 100%. So your people will always be your last line of defense. But who here has done corporate mandatory awareness training? It's pretty boring stuff. It's infrequent, it's overly complex, and it's quickly forgotten. Research has shown that less than 15% of users trained this way actually change their behavior. And the NCSC has recently questioned the efficacy of phish test training. So I'm Tim Ward from Think Cybersecurity, and we don't train people against these threats, we change their behavior. We've applied the theory and evidence of behavioral science and nudge theory in real time. And our award-winning Red Flags software delivers the right guidance at the right time. Red Flags is innovative and completely unique in delivering a broad range of behavioral nudges to users as they interact with their computer, being about to click a link, visiting a website, plugging in a USB, adding an attachment. Uniquely, interventions are based on context, are tiny, short cognitive nudges rather than lengthy training, and can be optimized and learned over time. Red Flags is making the UK safer. We're working with large corporates, the likes of BAE Systems, Vodafone, Unilever, Tesco Bank. We reach staff other awareness simply cannot. We steer people towards more secure behaviours and offer much needed visibility of risk. More widely, the money lost and business impact through cybercrime or data breaches has a significant impact on UK PLC. Our drip-fed approach leverages a range of cognitive biases, including social proof and personalisation. It includes NCSC certified content that helps people remain secure in their private as well as corporate lives. During the pandemic, working from home exposed new threats, but more importantly, a new work context. Traditional approaches to awareness and training has been too slow to adapt to this. In comparison, Red Flags allowed us to push out engaging, relevant and relevant guidance straight to staff to help them in this new context. Content can be tailored to cater for diversity, different user groups, different learning styles. In this new world of hybrid working, the ability to rapidly adapt to the risk landscape as the risk landscape changes will be absolutely critical. We fully intend to transform the world of security awareness with our scalable real-time approach. Our experienced and credible team includes the ex-global heads of IT and InfoSec from the cyber arm of BAE Systems, Detica, well known for spawning successful cyber startups, our friends at Digital Shadows, Panacea, and Garrison. Advisors include Robert Coles, ex-CISO of NHS and GSK, and Pam Briggs, Professor of Applied Psychology. We were selected for the first Lorca cohort and won the SC Award for Best Professional Training Programme last year. We're transforming a sizable market expected to be 10 billion in 2023. All organisations need awareness, especially as the way we work is changing, and awareness needs to be built into the world of work. But more than that, security culture is about more than awareness, more than training, it's about changing behaviours. What we need are red flags from Think Cybersecurity. Thank you.
Thanks, Tim. Nicola, shall I come to you first on this one?
Yeah, so I'm kind of interested whether you have sort of a false positive in a nudge, because behaviourally, if I start getting regular warning things when I'm doing things that I want to do, I'm going to start becoming nudge blind. So how do you deal with that?
Yeah, I mean, dealing with habituation and people getting used to it, or people being nudged when they're not actually doing something is really important. So I talk about lots of different nudges, but actually we're quite sparing and quite subtle, and also the system will learn things. And the language of the nudge tends to be around the kind of make sure you are, or kind of, or double check the sender, so that we're quite sparing, so we will try not to nudge you if it doesn't matter, and B, we're not telling you off, we're trying to say, have you double checked the sender, or something like that. So it's about being really quite subtle and also starting to learn over time. So we'll learn some of the regular emails in your marketing and your spam, not spam, but ones you want to see, and we won't nudge you against them again.
Andrew?
Thanks. Can I ask what evidence there might actually be to demonstrate that you have actually successfully delivered any culture change in the organisations where this is deployed, relative to all these sort of other solutions? And I guess a bit like Nicola, you know, what evidence is there that sticks over time and doesn't fade away?
Yeah, so we delivered our phishing nudges at a higher education establishment, and we halved the click rate within 3 to 4 months. And we saw a maintenance of a level of engagement around sort of 70% with that content throughout the whole year, which, to be honest, was quite surprising, because what we do now is we change that content, but when we did this, actually the content stayed pretty much the same. And so we know it works, and I think part of that is because it's subtle, it's quite sparing, it's maybe once every 3 weeks. We've also seen impact on people handling attachments where we've nudged them and reduced the number of attachments, so we're getting people to use links instead. And we're running some research with Cardiff University at the moment to get into the detail of which nudges work the most, and we can see a big difference between not nudging and nudging with different types of nudges, in particular what we call coping nudges, which is where the nudge is just kind of telling you, like, check the sender, or giving you something easy to do, which really just helps people go, yeah, okay, I'll do that, rather than saying, don't do this, watch out for this, and trying to scare them, which actually is less effective.
Thanks, Tim. Any burning ones from Andy or Jerry? No? Fantastic.
Thanks very much.
Thanks again. And next up, we've got Joshua Noon from iPassport. Over to you, Josh.
Hello, my name is Joshua Noon. I work for research and development for iPassport. I've been a founding member since its conception in 2018. Essentially, we're a digital identity management provider. We do both on-prem and cloud-hosted solutions. We use industry-leading biometric technologies across all of our services, and we drive the use of safer, more robust biometric identity management, which is led by the privacy by design principles. And what we aim to do is put people back in control of their own data. Since our launch, we've developed a couple of identification, verification, and authentication tools with the biometric technology embedded right at the heart of them. We're enabling companies to streamline ID verification with services that can be used from start to finish. We're committed to offering companies a scalable option to make their own processes more robust and their customers' journeys simpler. The leading product that we have at the moment is Cognosco. It's a granular identity management service, which at its core provides the ability to use biometric technologies and more specifically facial recognition. There are endless cases for Cognosco, but one of the real world implementations that we have at the moment is in use in an airport. In this space, Cognosco is enabling airlines and airports the ability to eliminate human error with ID checks and reducing the amount of lost and stolen passports by removing the need to keep getting them out. We think the future of credentials is very much going to be a digital one. So with services like Cognosco, we can ensure that the electronic counterparts of the physical credentials haven't been tampered with or duplicated. And in turn, we can make them less susceptible to OCG attacks like identity fraud by ensuring that the person that's using the credential is the person who owns it. I mean, if you can think back to the horror of the early 2020 when the world was beginning to shut down again and businesses were stopping, iPassport were revving up our engines because we knew as a company that we'd have a duty to help the world get back on its feet, and we knew that we could do that. So the Cognosco solution was already doing the things that we knew we could do. So we stepped up our efforts through some more development into our product. And with the continued effort, Cognosco is better than it was before. And in the airport environment, it's still doing the things that we needed it to do. So it's reducing the unnecessary handling of documents and credentials, and taking the multitude of what exists at the moment as touch points and making them checkpoints instead. This kind of thing is already in action at Haneda Airport for the Olympics and Bogota Airport, where our Cognosco solution is leading the biometric services that those airlines are running. And in the construction industry, we've got a tier 1 company using Cognosco for contactless turnstile site access and digital induction, enrollment, and credential verification. I've mentioned airlines quite a bit, but Cognosco and all of the solutions that iPassport do are industry agnostic. They have a plethora of implementations and endless use cases like bars and nightclubs and gym entries and all sorts of different things like that. iPassport at its heart is very much full of innovators who are looking to drive the latest in emerging technology. Our newest project, Weave, is based on it's a digital identity ecosystem, which is based on the self-sovereign principles of decentralizing data. It's a lot of words. And we're giving the power of the credentials back to the people that use them. And in turn, this obviously benefits businesses by lightening the unnecessary burdens of centralized data. Weave is currently being built alongside IATA, which is the International Air Transport Association. I'm sure you probably know who they are. And we'll be launching in the coming months with a whole host of airlines like BA. So that's why I think iPassport is the future of secure digital identity management. I apologize if I've gone over. I had quite a lot to try and get through. So any questions?
20 seconds over, but we'll jump straight into the questions.
Sorry.
Jerry, she'll come to you first.
Yeah, so it looks like a really interesting concept, and obviously I can see a whole host of benefits in using this type of technology. I just wondered if you'd touch on some of the things that might act as constraints to adoption. So the sorts of things I'm thinking of is with biometrics, you're purchasing a whole bunch of additional equipment that needs to be at particular places in buildings, et cetera,
Yeah.
The accuracy of things like facial recognition and its current state of, and then things like legal constraints on the use of facial recognition, et cetera. I just wonder if you could talk about those sorts of things and how you might try and address some of those things.
A lot of this is why we started we focused our early efforts into the airline industry, because there are the airline industry in itself is putting a lot of time and effort and money into the hardware that is currently there. I think the airline industry is leaps and bounds ahead in that it knows that facial recognition is going to be key to the future of travel, especially with, we've all got e-passports now, and that's going to progress again from being just an e-passport into a digital passport. So I think that's why we focused our efforts there, because a lot of the hardware was already there. We've been working with Collins Aerospace quite closely, and they are driving a biometric program there where they're implementing the hardware that's in these airlines and airports. So they're doing an awful lot of the groundwork in putting those hardwares in place, and that's why we're trying to start showing that facial recognition is the way forward. And again, with the accuracy of facial recognition, we don't have one specific engine that we use. We're constantly developing new engines and allowing different plugins and different people. So obviously we're always looking at the NIST facial recognition technology list, and we're always open to working with new people. We've got NEC at the moment, Luxand, 3Divi. So we're developing a wide range of engines that work with our services, so that it's completely customizable. You can choose, if you're an airline, you can choose the one that meets your criteria, so that everyone can be individual.
Thank you.
Nicola?
So I have noticed traditionally there have been challenges with facial recognition in the databases used and ethnicity recognition and things like that. What have you done to combat that?
So, like I said, we're very much open. We allow the clients to pick their facial recognition engine that matches the requirements that they have. We have a part of the database. One of the key parts of Cognosco is an automatic unenrollment. So in terms of the data, the databases and the security behind that, if an airline chooses to, 10 minutes after the flight's gone off, they can get rid of that information and it gets hard deleted. You can't get it back again, it's gone. So it's very much this. Cognosco is our on-prem solution and handles that kind of aspect of things and gets rid of the data when it doesn't need to be there. But in terms of I know the ethnicity is a problem. There's always going to be, you're always going to have issues with facial recognition because it's still a developing technology. And one of the things that we've obviously found issues with is twins, but the higher the NIST rating of your facial recognition engine, you're going to get a much better response from all those different attributes. So that's why we've opened up our solution, which is the management service of it, to whatever engine you want.
Thanks, Joshua. Andrew?
Thanks. Yeah, governments have been struggling for some time to decide whether or not we should trust digital identities and how this should work. We've been consulting recently in the UK on our trust framework. What steps have you taken with applying government frameworks to try to persuade them that they should accept your identities, and have you had any success to date?
We've tried to steer our services based on the government guidelines. There's a cybersecurity document. It's like 100 pages long, and it outlines there's a lot of facial recognition references in that we've got some contacts that we work with who have advised us. Obviously, Collins Aerospace have a very good relationship alongside IATA, have a great relationship with the government, and what we're doing with IATA at the moment is based on the self-sovereign principles, which I know are having a massive impact. The self-sovereign identity is a huge piece of technology at the moment, and we're trying to align ourselves with what we think is going to be the future and what we're seeing that the government think is going to be the future as well, because what we think might be the future isn't necessarily what will be the future. So it's a balancing act that we're doing at the moment, along with the private companies that are working on it and the advice that is coming from the government.
Thanks, Joshua. You've also got a question in the chat, so if you could respond to that as we go along, that'd be fantastic. And last but not least in this session, we've got Eva Berg-Winters from Buica. Over to you, Eva.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. My name is Eva. I'm CEO and co-founder of Bevica. Our mission is to help small organizations, businesses, schools, charities defend themselves from cybercrime. Small organizations are the backbone of our society, and they are very much under attack. The UK government breaches survey found that more than 1 in 3 experienced an attack in the last 12 months. And with working from home, the new norm for all of us, this has only gotten worse. And yet, small organizations often struggle to implement even basic protection measures. They don't have the time, the money, the expertise to defend themselves as large organizations can do. Cybersecurity is so complicated. I put it in a corner and ignore it. That's what one CEO told me, with that type of face to it as well. This is why we have joined forces with the Police Digital Security Center to offer a new solution. The Police DSC, together with the BSI, has created an assessment and certificate digitally aware for small organizations. We as Bevica have created an online platform that gives automatic tools to small organizations to help them implement and maintain core security. By bringing these two together, by embedding digitally aware into the Bevica platform, we are now able to help small organizations test their security against key measures, then give them the tools to help them put in place anything that they may be missing, and then obtain a certificate as a reward for their efforts. Let me bring this to life for you. Imagine your gap might be that you haven't trained your staff yet on how to spot a phishing email. With 4 clicks, you can launch a training from our platform. Once your staff have completed the training, you get a message as admin, and you know you're 1 step closer towards the certificate. Our differentiation is to give practical help to the smallest of organizations. They don't have the time, money, and expertise to defend themselves. So let's make it easy, quick, and affordable for them. The benefits to them are clear: better security and a certificate to show to their own clients that they care about their data. And the benefits to all of us: by protecting small organizations, we're protecting our society. We launched together with the Police DSC this week, and the feedback has already been fantastic. Our clients and partners really love that they have an affordable certificate to work towards, something very tangible. And I'm very proud of the Bevica team, and thankful to the Police DSC, if you're on this call. Thank you to all of you for having gotten us here in such a short period of time. If you're any small business manager here on the call, why don't you come to bevica.com, sign up, see for yourself how easy and quick it is to improve your security and obtain a certificate. Thank you.
Thanks, Eva, and apologies for butchering the Bevica name at the start. Andy, shall I come to you first?
Eva, Thanks for that presentation. I love your enthusiasm. So the good news about addressing the small business market, of course, is there are millions of them. But that also can be the bad news, because how do you actually address such a huge market? What plans do you have, apart from the new relationship with the police, which I wish you very well with? What are the plans you have to actually address scaling your business and acquiring small business customers, especially in light of the fact that as you well know, the vast number of small business owners don't spend 5 minutes of their busy day thinking about cyber, so they're not necessarily actively out there looking for the sorts of solution you can provide.
Absolutely. There's two parts to answer your question. The first one is clearly related to distribution. Our go-to-market is via partners. We are already in a live pilot with the leading UK insurer, with a large bank in Spain. Actually, our solution is already in some other markets fully translated. But we also work with smaller partners, insurance brokers, consultancies, those who have these pre-existing trusted relationships with small businesses, so that they can then mention our proposition in such a conversation. There's not to say that not some clients could come direct to us. But given that it's a security proposition, it's very important to start with a trusted note, and working with partners is clearly very helpful. And often they have an additional case, such as insurance brokers, cyber insurance sales, so it fits quite nicely. But the second element is to offer a solution that works for small businesses. You mentioned they have little time. They don't want to spend much time to get to know a platform. It has to be really intuitive. And that's something on which we are chipping away. So every day we're looking at what are people doing in our platform? Where do they stumble? Where is it still hard for them? We talk to them, we listen to them. Just this morning, I spent time with the team asking our device security tool, how can we improve the customer journey? How can we make it easier? And then translate those messages also for our partners, so they can tell their clients what they can expect and how it can help them. So it's both the distribution side, but it's also the proposition itself, but it's actually to get the interface really right. It's not the underlying tech, which can be nifty and is nifty, I'd say, but it's the interface which is a key challenge.
Okay, thanks.
Just interested, Eva, in the origins of your assessment in terms of differentiation. So, it'd be good to understand whether it is based on things like the IA maturity model, the 10 steps to cybersecurity, those types of things, or if it is completely different and diverse in terms of its origins.
So we actually had a number of different sources. My background is in insurance. I was head of claims for an insurance company. I saw how cyber incidents happened to companies. I really had a first feel for what matters in terms of security. We then went down a data approach. We actually were very lucky to be a grant recipient from Innovate UK for risk quantification. So we actually built an underlying risk model, and again, saw certain factors having a material impact on your security. And then lo and behold, the NCSC comes up with the same measures for small businesses, actually updated, I think in October last year. So it keeps on being updated. So we all come to the same conclusions, as did the Police Digital Security Center with their own assessment. So Digitally Aware is an assessment the police DRC developed with the BSI, but it all comes to the same conclusions. And that's when we met the police DRC, we realized we've got the same mission, but also the same approach and the same focus on what those measures are that are most likely to help you against phishing, against ransomware, against compromised email accounts, against the most important things that happen to small businesses. So different sources, same conclusion. And it's not going to stand still. It's going to evolve as the risk evolves, as small business technology and the business models evolve. Does that answer your question?
It does, thank you.
I'm guessing that was you telling me, Dan. So you mentioned certificates for the companies. Now, obviously, people do move around in SMEs. Do the people in the companies get certificates that they can port? Because that would seem to be a good leverageable word of mouth that people would be taking with them.
That's a very interesting idea. I'll certainly take note of that. Thank you. It's not something someone has asked us for yet. I've been receiving a lot of requests of can be evidences to our stakeholders, to our investors, or head teachers saying to my governors, but the stuff that is an intriguing one. We've created effectively a staff portal already. So our training, but also certain tools we have are accessible to staff. So it's not a big step to go from there to you have your own security. What we're actually envisioning before that probably is to allow you to mingle more with your personal world. And with working from home, there's already a lot of overlap. And you might still be using a business device, but you might start sharing it with family members Or you might just say, if my business devices, if I know how to make them secure, maybe I could apply the same ideas to my personal devices. And so the training part we want to extend also for personal use. But I like the idea of the certificate.
So I'm one of those weirdos that do continual learning just for fun. And I do love it when I can click on something and it goes on my LinkedIn. So that might be something you might want to look at.
Good idea. I take it down. Thank you.
This morning for keeping to time, which means we're all going to reap the rewards of a slightly longer lunchtime.